The lights inside Kalendra Station flickered again, and Tykran felt his old heart sink a little deeper. He stood in the command center, his insect-like body hunched over the main display screen. The screen showed 12 red dots surrounding the station. 12 Krathul warships. Each one carried enough weapons to tear the station apart. "Administrator, they're sending another message," Zella said from her console. The young amphibious officer's skin had turned a pale blue, a sign of fear among her people. Tykran touched the screen with his claw. "Play it." The harsh voice of the Krathul commander filled the room. "You have 24 hours left. Surrender or die. There will be no mercy," the message ended. Silence fell over the command center. Tykran looked around at his small team. They all knew what surrender meant. The Krathul would take everyone who could work as slaves. The rest would be killed. That was how the Krathul operated. That was how they had conquered 30 systems in the past 5 years. "Any response to our distress calls?" Tykran asked, though he already knew the answer. Zella shook her head. "Nothing, sir. The Galactic Council sent a message 6 hours ago. They said Kalendra Station is too far from their territory. They won't send help." "Of course they won't," Harmonic 7 said. The crystalline being stood near the window, its body reflecting the dim light. "We are not important enough. We do not have resources they need. We are simply unlucky." Tykran wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Harmonic 7 was right. Kalendra Station was just a trading post on the edge of known space. 47,000 people lived here. Families, children, merchants, workers, good people trying to make a life far from the crowded inner worlds. But to the Galactic Council, they were numbers on a chart. Not worth saving. "Keep sending the distress signal," Tykran said quietly. "Someone might hear it." "Sir, the nearest ships are 3 weeks away," Zella said. "We don't have 3 weeks. We have 1 day." "I know," Tykran said, "but keep sending it anyway." He walked to the window and looked out at the station. Through the transparent metal, he could see the market district. Even now, people walked through the streets. Some were packing, getting ready to evacuate, though there was nowhere to evacuate to. Others sat in small groups holding each other. Parents played with their children, making the most of what might be their last day together. Tykran had lived for 83 years. He had seen many things, but he had never felt so helpless. "I'm going to prepare the surrender documents," he said. "Maybe if we cooperate, they will show some mercy to the children." Zella's console beeped. She looked at the screen, frowned, and tapped a few buttons. "Sir, I'm getting a strange reading." "What kind of reading?" Harmonic 7 asked, moving closer. "There's something at the edge of the system, moving very fast. Faster than anything I've ever seen." Tykran felt a small spark of hope. "A ship?" "I don't know. The signal is strange. It doesn't match any known vessel type." Zella worked her console, trying to get more information. "Wait, it's gone now. Must have been a sensor error. The hope died." Tykran nodded slowly. "Yes, probably just a malfunction. The Krathul weapons are playing havoc with our sensors." But Zella kept staring at her screen, wondering. Down in the residential sector, a Vexri mother named Kessa held her 2 children close. They sat in their small apartment, the only home the children had ever known. Her youngest, barely 5 years old, didn't understand what was happening. He played with his toys while his older sister, 9 years old, tried not to cry. "Mama, is it true what they're saying?" the girl asked. "Are the bad ships going to hurt us?" Kessa didn't know how to answer. She had always told her children to be honest, to be brave. But how could she be honest about this? How could she tell them that help wasn't coming? That tomorrow they might all be dead or worse? "Someone will come," Kessa said, surprised by her own words. Someone always comes. She didn't believe it. But she needed her children to have hope, even if she had none left. In the market district, a Quellan merchant named Poro closed his shop for what he thought might be the last time. He had run this shop for 20 years, selling foods from across the galaxy. He knew every customer by name. This place was more than a shop. It was a community. "Poro, are you leaving?" his neighbor asked, a shard named Melody 3. "Where would I go?" Poro said. "This is my home. If the Krathul come, they will find me here." Melody 3 placed a crystalline hand on Poro's shoulder. It was meant to be a comforting gesture. "Perhaps the council will change their mind." "No," Poro said. "They won't. We're on our own." Back in the command center, the hours crawled by. Tykran finished the surrender documents. They were pathetic, really. "Please don't kill us. Please spare the children. Please show mercy. He knew the Crattle would ignore every word, but he had to try. 18 hours left, Zella announced. Tykran looked at the 12 red dots on his screen. They hadn't moved. They just sat there waiting, like predators watching prey bleed out. Sir, Harmonic 7 said, I have calculated our chances of survival if we surrender. Approximately 15% of the population might be spared for labor. The rest will be eliminated. I didn't need you to calculate that, Tykran said more harshly than he intended. I'm sorry. I just wish things were different. We all do, Harmonic 7 replied. Zella suddenly sat up straight at her console. Sir, that reading is back. The fast-moving object. It's definitely there. And it's coming toward us. Tykran rushed to her station. Show me. The sensor display showed a single dot approaching the system at incredible speed. It was moving faster than any ship should be able to move. Is it another Krathul ship? Tykran asked. No, Zella said, her voice rising with excitement. The signature is completely different. I've never seen anything like it. Whatever it is, it's big. Maybe as big as a Krathul warship, but the energy readings are off the scale. Harmonic 7 analyzed the data. This vessel is using a faster-than-light drive that does not match any known technology in the database. It is not Krathul. It is not from any council species. Then who is it? Tykran asked. The three of them watched the screen as the mysterious ship raced toward them. For the first time in days, Tykran felt something other than despair. He felt curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, a tiny bit of hope. How long until it reaches us? He asked. At current speed, approximately 12 hours, Zella said. 12 hours. 6 hours before the Krathul deadline. Whoever was coming, they were cutting it very close. Keep monitoring it, Tykran said. And Zella? Don't tell anyone else yet. I don't want to give people false hope. But even as he said it, Tykran found himself staring at that single dot on the screen. One ship, racing through the void toward them. Coming from nowhere. Coming when no one else would. Who were they? And why were they coming? The station fell into an uneasy quiet as the hours passed. People tried to sleep but couldn't. Parents held their children. Friends gathered together. Everyone waited for the dawn that might be their last. And somewhere in the darkness of space, something was coming. Something fast. Something angry, something human. Captain Jake Morris stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiant, staring at the star map in front of him. His gray eyes were tired. They had been on patrol for 3 months, checking this remote sector of space for pirates and threats. It was boring work, but necessary work. Captain, we're picking up a distress signal, Lieutenant Sam Briggs said from the tactical station. It's weak, but it's there. Jake walked over to Sam's console. Where? Kalendra Station. About 6 hours away at full speed. Sam pulled up the message. Says they're under attack by Krathul forces. 12 warships. They're requesting immediate assistance. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The Krathul. He had heard stories about them. A species that believed in conquest and slavery. They had been expanding their territory for years, and the Galactic Council did nothing to stop them. Have they gotten any response to their distress call? Jake asked. Sam checked the data. The Galactic Council responded. They told the station they won't be sending help. Said it's outside their protection zone. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Outside their protection zone. That was council talk for we don't care about you. How many people on that station? He asked. 47,000, sir. Mostly civilians. 47,000 people, families, children, people just trying to live their lives. And the council had abandoned them. Commander Lisa Hayes stepped up beside Jake. She was his second in command, smart and careful. Captain, the Krathul have 12 warships. We have one. Even if we go in at full strength, the odds are not good. I know the odds, Jake said quietly. If we report this to Fleet Command, they could send a proper task force, maybe reach the station in 2 weeks. The distress call says the Krathul gave them 48 hours. That deadline is in about 12 hours now. Jake looked at Lisa. Those people don't have 2 weeks. Lisa met his eyes. She had served with Jake for 5 years. She knew that look. You're going in anyway, aren't you? Yes. The crew could die. The ship could be destroyed. For people we don't even know. Jake turned to face his bridge crew. Sam at Tactical. Chief Engineer Kate Flynn monitoring the engines. Navigator Peter Lane plotting courses. Communications Officer Amy Scott listening to channels. Medical Officer Dr. Paul Grant standing by in case he was needed. Young Danny Worth at the helm, barely 23 years old. They were all looking at him, waiting for his decision. I joined the service because I believed we should help people, Jake said. Not just people who are important. Not just people in the right territory. All people. Anyone who needs help, he paused. We're 6 hours away from 47,000 people who are going to die if we don't do something. I can't live with myself if I turn away. But this is dangerous. This might be suicide. So I'm going to ask you, should we go? The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Sam spoke up. Hell yes, we go. Kate's voice came over the intercom from engineering. My engines can get us there in 5 hours if you need it, Captain. Danny at the helm nodded. I'm ready, sir. One by one, every member of the bridge crew agreed. They would go. They would fight. Even if the odds were terrible. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. This was why he loved his crew. This was what it meant to be human. All hands, this is the captain, Jake said over the ship-wide intercom. We've received a distress call from a civilian station under attack. We're going to help them. This will be dangerous. We're outnumbered, but those people have nowhere else to turn, so we're going to show them what humans do when someone needs help. Battle stations. We jump in 5 minutes. Down in the Marine quarters, Sergeant Nina Cruz heard the announcement and smiled. Finally, some action. She had been training her Marines for months. They were ready. You heard the captain, she called out to her squad. Gear up. We might have a fight coming. Her Marines moved quickly, checking weapons and armor. They were only 25 soldiers, but they were the best trained fighters on the ship. If boarding action was needed, they would be ready. In the medical bay, Dr. Paul Grant started preparing. He laid out surgical supplies, made sure the emergency systems were working, and said a quiet prayer. He had been a combat medic before becoming a ship's doctor. He knew what battle looked like. He knew what it cost. In engineering, Kate Flynn checked every system twice. The Defiant was a good ship, but it was also 20 years old. The engines worked fine, but they had quirks. The weapons were powerful, but they needed careful management. She had kept this ship running through 3 captains and a dozen missions. She wasn't going to let it fail now. Boss, are we really doing this? Her assistant engineer asked. 12 against 1? We're doing it, Kate said. So make sure everything is working perfectly. I don't want any surprises. On the bridge, Jake reviewed the tactical situation one more time. 12 Krathel warships. The Defiant had good weapons and strong shields, but it couldn't fight 12 ships at once. Not in a straight battle, so it wouldn't be a straight battle. Sam, pull up everything we know about Krathel tactics, Jake said. Sam worked his console. They prefer formation fighting. Usually split into groups, use overlapping fire patterns. They're disciplined but not very creative. Good, that means they're predictable. Jake studied the data. They expect enemies to fight the way council ships fight. Long range, careful, following the rules of war. And we won't fight that way? Lisa asked. No, Jake said with a cold smile. We're going to fight the human way, close, fast, angry. Lisa shook her head, but she was smiling too. You're crazy. Probably. The 5 minutes passed quickly. The crew was ready. The ship was ready. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. No going back now. Helm, take us in. Maximum speed. Come out and jump right on top of them. Yes, sir, Danny said, his hands steady on the controls. The Defiant's engines roared to life. Space twisted around the ship as it entered faster than light travel. The journey would take 5 hours. 5 hours until they reached Kalendra Station. 5 hours until they faced 12 enemy warships. 5 hours until they found out if one human ship could make a difference. Jake sat in his command chair and waited. His crew worked quietly around him, each focused on their job. They were scared, he knew. He was scared too. But fear was okay. Fear kept you sharp. What mattered was what you did despite the fear. Captain, Amy from communications said, should I send a message to the station? Let them know we're coming? Jake thought about it. Those people on the station had given up hope. The council had abandoned them. They probably thought they were going to die. Yes, Jake said. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on just a little longer. Amy sent the message. Somewhere ahead of them, racing through space, that message would reach Kalendra Station. It would reach Tykran and Zella and all those frightened people. And maybe, just maybe, it would give them hope. The Defiant flew through the void, alone but determined. Behind them, safety. Ahead of them, danger and death. But the crew of the Defiant had made their choice. They were going to fight. They were going to help people who needed help. Because that was what humans did. That was what made them different. The Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a scream that shook space itself. On Calendra Station, every sensor array went wild. Alarms blared. The energy signature was unlike anything they had ever seen. Zella stared at her screen in shock. "Sir, the ship just arrived. It's broadcasting a message." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and human. "This is Captain Jake Morris of the Human Space Service vessel Defiant. Calendra Station is under our protection. Krathel forces withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Tykran couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Humans, I thought they were just a rumor." "They're real," Harmonic 7 said, analyzing the data. "And their ship is generating enough power to match 3 Council warships." On the lead Krathel ship, Warlord Shakros listened to the human's message and laughed. His reptilian face split into a cruel grin. "One ship? They send 1 ship against 12? These humans are fools." His second-in-command hissed in agreement. "Should we destroy them, Warlord?" "Yes, send 5 ships to deal with them. The rest will maintain position around the station. This will be quick." 5 Krathel warships broke formation and moved toward the Defiant. They spread out in a standard attack pattern, expecting a traditional battle. They expected the human ship to maintain distance to fire from long range, to follow the normal rules of space combat. They were very wrong. On the Defiant's bridge, Jake watched the enemy ships approach. "Sam, target the lead ship. Kate, I need everything you can give me." Kate's voice came through from engineering. "Weapons are at full power. Shields are up. But Captain, if we take sustained fire from 5 ships, we won't last long." "We won't be taking sustained fire," Jake said, "because we won't be where they expect us to be. Danny, full speed ahead. Take us right at them." Danny's hands moved across the helm controls. The Defiant surged forward, accelerating far faster than the Krathul expected. Instead of maintaining a safe distance, the human ship was charging straight into their formation. "What are they doing?" the Krathul commander of the lead ship said. "Are they insane?" He got his answer when the Defiant opened fire. But the weapons didn't fire in straight lines like Council ships. The missiles spiraled and looped, coming from unexpected angles. The railgun fire pulsed in strange patterns. It was chaos. It was unpredictable. It was effective. The lead Krathel ship's shields took multiple hits before they could react. The captain tried to adjust, tried to compensate, but the human attack pattern made no sense. Then a cluster of missiles hit their reactor housing. The Krathel ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. On Calendra Station, everyone watching the battle stood in stunned silence. One of the Krathel ships was gone. Just like that. Destroyed in the first minute of combat. "Impossible," Tykran whispered. "Improbable," Harmonic 7 corrected. But clearly not impossible. The Defiant didn't slow down. It flew straight through the debris field of the destroyed ship, using the wreckage as cover. The remaining 4 Krathel ships tried to track it, but the human ship was moving too fast, changing direction too quickly. "Sam, target the ship on our left." "Everything we have," Jake ordered. The Defiant's weapons fired again. This time the Krathel ship was ready and its shields held. But then the human ship did something unexpected. It turned hard, spinning on its axis while still moving forward. The maneuver would have torn a normal ship apart. The Defiant held together, and suddenly it was firing at the Krathel ship from a completely different angle. The shields on that side weren't as strong. The weapons tore through them and ripped into the hull. The Krathel ship began venting atmosphere and spinning out of control. "Captain, we're taking fire from the other 3 ships," Sam reported. "Shields are down to 70%. Jake felt the ship shake as enemy weapons hit them. "Keep moving. Don't give them a stable target." Danny was flying the ship like it was alive, dodging and weaving through enemy fire. Peter was constantly updating their position, finding the best angles of attack. Amy was monitoring enemy communications, trying to predict their moves. It was working, but barely. Then Jake had an idea. "Sam, do we still have those boarding pods?" Sam looked at him in surprise. "Yes, sir. But we've never used them in actual combat." "Well, there's a first time for everything. Tell Sergeant Cruz to prepare for a boarding action. Target that damaged ship." Down in the Marine quarters, Nina got the message and grinned. "You heard the captain. We're going for a ride. Grab your gear and get to the pods." Her Marines moved fast. Within 2 minutes, 25 heavily armed soldiers were packed into 3 small pods. The pods were designed to shoot across space and punch through enemy hulls. It was dangerous. It was crazy. It was exactly what the Marines wanted to do. All teams ready. Captain, Nina reported. Launch pods, Jake ordered. 3 small pods shot out from the Defiant, racing toward the damaged Krathul ship. The pods were small and fast, hard to target. They crossed the distance in seconds and slammed into the enemy hull with a sound like thunder. Inside the Krathul ship, the crew was already dealing with multiple emergencies. Then the humans came through their walls. Nina's Marines poured into the ship, weapons firing. The Krathul were bigger and stronger, but the humans fought as a team. They used tactics the Krathul had never seen. Room clearing, suppressing fire, coordinated assault. Nina led her team toward the bridge. They met resistance along the way. Krathul warriors tried to stop them. But the humans were relentless. They didn't stop. They didn't hesitate. They pushed forward through every obstacle. Bridge secured, Nina reported 15 minutes later. The ship is ours. Good work, Sergeant, Jake said. Get back to the Defiant. We're going to scuttle that ship. The Marines evacuated quickly. Once they were clear, Jake ordered the captured ship destroyed. It exploded in another flash of light. 3 Krathul ships destroyed. 9 remaining. On the lead Krathul command ship, Warlord Shakros was no longer laughing. He had just lost 3 ships to 1 enemy vessel. 3 ships, in less than 30 minutes. All ships converge on the human vessel. Overwhelm them with numbers, but Jake was already moving. All power to forward weapons. We're going to punch through their line. Captain, our shields are down to 40%, Sam warned. We've got hull breaches on multiple decks. We can't take much more. Jake knew Sam was right. The Defiant was tough, but it couldn't fight 12 ships forever. They needed to even the odds more. Kate, how's our faster-than-light drive? He asked. There was a pause. Functional, but barely. The battle damage has affected the power systems. Why? Jake smiled, though it wasn't a happy smile. Because I have an idea, and everyone is going to hate it. On Kalendra Station, Tykran watched the battle with growing amazement. The human ship was winning. Against impossible odds, it was actually winning. But he could also see the damage the Defiant was taking. It was hurt. It was bleeding. They're dying for us, Zella said quietly. They don't even know us, and they're dying for us. Yes, Tykran said. He made a decision then. Power up our defensive weapons. Harmonic 7 looked at him. Our weapons are old and weak. They will do little damage. Maybe, Tykran said. But the humans came to help us. The least we can do is try to help them back. All across the station, the word spread. The humans were fighting for them. And now they were going to fight beside the humans. Because that was what you did when someone stood up for you. You stood up with them. The Defiant was dying. Fires burned on 3 decks. The shields were failing. Half the weapons were offline. In the medical bay, Dr. Paul Grant worked desperately to save the wounded. The ship shook with each enemy hit, and each shake brought more casualties. Jake stood on the bridge, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. A console had exploded during the last attack, but he stayed focused on the tactical display. 9 Krathul ships remained, and they were all converging on his position. Captain, we need to retreat, Lisa said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the fear underneath. If we stay, we're going to lose the ship. Jake knew she was right. They had done well. Better than anyone could have expected. They had destroyed 3 enemy ships, but 9 was too many. Even for humans, if we leave, the station dies, Jake said simply. If we stay, we die. Jake looked at his bridge crew. Danny at the helm, his young face pale but determined. Sam at tactical, working through injuries to keep the weapons firing. Amy at communications, coordinating with the station. Peter navigating through the battle with incredible skill. They were willing to die here, all of them, for people they had never met. There has to be a way, Jake said. Then Kalendra Station's defensive weapons opened fire. The weapons were old and weak, designed for pirates, not warships, but they fired anyway. Bright beams of energy reached out from the station toward the Krathul ships. The damage was minimal, but it distracted the Krathul. They had to split their attention between the Defiant and the station. It wasn't much, but it was something. The station is helping us, Sam said, surprise in his voice. Jake felt warmth in his chest despite the cold situation. Bring us closer to the station. We'll use it as cover. The Defiant limped toward Kalendra Station, trailing debris and atmosphere. The station's weapons continued to fire, giving the human ship precious seconds to reposition. In the command center, Tykrin watched his screens with fierce pride. His people were fighting. After days of despair, they were fighting back. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Give them everything we have." Zella worked her console frantically. "Sir, the human ship has taken severe damage. Their shields are almost gone. They can't survive another concentrated attack." "Then we need to make sure they don't face one alone," Tykrin said. Back on the Defiant, Jake called down to engineering. "Kate, I need to know about the faster-than-light drive." "Can we jump?" "Maybe," Kate's voice came back. "But not far, and not safely. The drive is damaged. If we try to jump inside the system, we might tear ourselves apart. What if we jumped right into the middle of the Krathul formation?" There was silence. Then Kate said, "Are you insane? The space-time disruption would tear apart everything nearby, including us." "Including them," Jake said. "How many of their ships could we take out?" "I don't know. 4 or 5, maybe more. But Captain, we would die. The ship would be destroyed. There's no way we survive that jump." Jake looked at Lisa. She was staring at him with wide eyes. She knew what he was thinking. "There has to be another way," Lisa said. "If there is, I can't see it," Jake replied. "We're out of options. Out of time. This might be our only chance to save the station." "The crew deserves to know," Lisa said. "If we're going to do this, they should have a choice." Jake nodded. He opened the ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're in bad shape. The Krathul have us outnumbered, and we can't win a straight fight. I have a plan that might work. We can jump the ship right into their formation. The disruption will destroy several of their ships, maybe enough to give the station a chance." He paused, then continued. "But we probably won't survive the jump. This will likely be the end. I won't order you to do this. It's too much to ask. So I'm asking for volunteers. If you want to try this, stay at your station. If you want to evacuate to the station, go now. You have 2 minutes." The channel went quiet. Jake waited. He expected at least some people to leave. It was suicide. No one could blame them for choosing life. But 2 minutes passed and nobody moved. Not on the bridge. Not in engineering. Not in medical. Not in the Marine quarters. Amy's voice broke the silence. "Captain, you're getting messages from all decks. Everyone is staying. Nobody is leaving." Jake felt his eyes burn with emotion. His crew. His brave, stubborn, impossible crew. They were willing to die with him. For people they didn't know. For a cause that was right. "Thank you," Jake said, his voice rough. "All of you. It's been an honor." Down in medical, Paul continued working on the wounded. One of them, young Danny's friend from engineering, looked up at him. "Doc, are we really doing this?" "Yes," Paul said. "But don't worry. I'll be right here with you." In the Marine quarters, Nina checked her weapon one last time. If they survived the jump, there might still be fighting. She would be ready until the very end. In engineering, Kate looked at her systems. The drive was damaged, barely functional. But she could make it work one more time. "One final jump, we're ready down here," she reported to the bridge. "The drive is charged. Just say when." Jake positioned the Defiant carefully. The Krathul ships were closing in, thinking they had won. They expected the human ship to retreat or surrender. They had no idea what was coming. "Helm, take us into the center of their formation. Full speed." Danny's hands were steady on the controls. "Yes, sir." The Defiant accelerated, racing toward the Krathul ships. The enemy was confused at first. Then they realized the human ship was charging them. They opened fire with everything they had. The Defiant shook. Metal screamed. Systems failed, but it kept moving forward. "Almost there," Jake said. "Kate, prepare to jump on my mark." "Ready, Captain." The Defiant reached the center of the Krathul formation. Enemy ships surrounded them on all sides. This was it. The moment of truth. "Now," Jake shouted. "Jump now." Kate activated the drive. Reality twisted. Space screamed. The Defiant began to jump, tearing a hole in the universe right in the middle of the enemy formation. On Kalendra Station, Tykrin saw the human ship begin to glow. Brighter and brighter until it was like looking at a star. Then it vanished. For a moment, everything was silent. All sensors went blind. All communications went dead. It was like the universe itself had stopped. Then the Krathul ships started to explode. The space-time disruption tore through them like paper. 4 ships, 5 ships, 6 ships. Each one destroyed in an instant. When the sensors cleared, only 3 Krathul ships remained. They were damaged and drifting, their systems overloaded by the disruption. But where was the Defiant? Had the human ship survived? Or had they sacrificed themselves to save the station? Zella stared at her blank screens, hoping, praying, begging the universe to let the humans have survived. Please, she whispered. Please let them be alive. Everyone on the station held their breath and waited. For 17 minutes there was only silence. The sensors slowly began to work again. The static cleared, and everyone on Kalendra Station searched desperately for any sign of the human ship. Tykran stared at his screens, afraid to hope and afraid not to. They had watched the Defiant sacrifice itself. The humans had died saving them. He felt grief heavier than anything he had known. Anything, he asked Zella, though he knew the answer. No signal, no energy readings, nothing. Zella's voice was broken. She had been listening to the human communications during the battle. She had heard their courage, their jokes, their determination. Now they were gone. Then something appeared on the edge of her screen. A faint signal. Weak and broken, but there. Wait, Zella said, her fingers flying across the console. I have something. It's faint, but it's there. Where? Harmonic 7 asked, moving closer. Behind the station, moving slowly. The Defiant emerged from behind Kalendra Station like a ghost. The ship was barely recognizable. The hull was torn open in dozens of places. Whole sections were missing. Debris trailed behind it like a comet's tail. It was dying, held together by luck and the skill of its crew. But it was still there, still fighting, still alive. They survived, Tykran said in wonder. They actually survived. On the Defiance bridge, Jake pulled himself up from the floor. The jump had thrown everyone. The bridge was dark except for emergency lights. Sparks flew from broken consoles. But they were alive. Status report, Jake said, his voice hoarse. Shields are gone. Most weapons are offline. Life support is failing on multiple decks, Sam reported. But we made it, Captain. We're still here. The Krathul? Sensors show 3 ships remaining. They're damaged and drifting. Wait, they're powering up weapons. They're coming for us. Jake felt exhaustion wash over him. They had nothing left. No shields, no weapons, no way to defend themselves. After everything they had done, after everything they had survived, it would end like this. Can we evacuate to the station? He asked. Maybe. If we have time, Lisa said. But they didn't have time. The 3 remaining Krathul ships were moving toward them, preparing for a final attack. On those ships, Warlord Shakros stared at the broken human vessel with hatred. They had destroyed most of his fleet, made him look like a fool. He would have his revenge. Destroy them, he ordered. Then something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing at the edge of the system. Not military vessels. Civilian ships, a Quellan merchant convoy, a Vexri mining ship, a Shard science vessel. More and more kept coming. They positioned themselves between the Krathul and the Defiant. Dozens of civilian ships forming a shield with their own bodies. In the lead Quellan ship, Captain Mara broadcast a message. If you want the humans, you will have to go through all of us. Similar messages came from the other ships. They weren't fighters. They weren't soldiers. But they had been watching the battle. They had seen the humans risk everything for strangers. They had seen courage that inspired them, and they would not let that courage go unrewarded. On Kalendra Station, Zella was crying. She watched ship after ship arrive, each one willing to die to protect the humans who had protected them. They came, she whispered. Everyone came. Warlord Shakros stared at the massive ships surrounding his prey. His fleet was damaged. He had lost 9 ships, and now he faced an armada of civilians who somehow had found courage. He could fight. He might even win. But at what cost? He had already lost too much. His reputation was ruined. His fleet was destroyed. And these people were willing to die rather than let him win. For the first time in his life, Warlord Shakros felt something like respect. And shame. All ships retreat, he ordered. We are leaving this system. His officers stared at him in shock. But Warlord, we can still win. No, Shakros said quietly. We have already lost. The 3 Krathul ships turned and jumped away. The siege was over. Kalendra Station was saved. The civilian ships that had come to help began broadcasting messages of support and offers of assistance. The Defiance crew was evacuated to the station. One by one, wounded and exhausted, they left their dying ship. Jake was the last to leave. He stood on the bridge one final time, looking at the ship that had carried them so far. The Defiant had done its duty. Now it could rest, thank you, he said to the empty bridge. Then he left. The station's medical facilities were overwhelmed with human wounded. Species who had never treated humans before worked desperately to save them. They shared supplies, knowledge, and skills. Dr. Paul worked alongside alien doctors, teaching them about human biology. 47 members of the Defiant's crew had died in the battle. Jake attended the memorial service 2 days later. The entire station came to pay respects. Thousands of people from different species stood together in silence as each name was read. After the service, Tykran approached Jake. The old administrator struggled to find words. Finally, he simply asked, "Why? You didn't know us. We were nothing to you. Why did you come?" Jake thought about his answer. He could talk about duty, about honor, about the principles of the human space service. But the truth was simpler than that. "Because you needed help," Jake said, "and that's enough." Tykran felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not just for himself or his station, but for the galaxy. If humans like this existed, maybe things could get better. "What happens now?" Tykran asked. "Now we wait for a human fleet to come get us. They should be here in about 6 weeks, and then we go home." Jake looked out at the station. "But we'll remember this place, and these people." Over the following weeks, something changed in that sector of space. Kalendra Station became a symbol. The story spread from system to system. The story of the day when no one would help except for one human warship that came howling from the void. Zella organized a network of systems pledging to protect each other. They would not rely on the Galactic Council anymore. They would stand together. The Defiant was too damaged to repair. Instead, the station's inhabitants converted it into a monument. They covered it with messages in dozens of languages. "Thank you. We remember. You saved us." But the central message, the one written largest, was simple. They came when no one else would. When the human fleet arrived to retrieve the crew, Captain Jake Morris stood in the docking bay preparing to leave. Hundreds of people came to see them off. Children who would grow up because of their sacrifice. Parents who still had their families. Workers who still had their homes. Nina stood beside Jake, her arm still in a sling. "Did we make a difference, Captain?" Jake looked at the faces around them. Fexri, Quellen, Shard, and others, all alive, all free, all looking at humans with gratitude and respect. "Yeah," Jake said. "I think we did." The shuttle carried them away from Kalendra Station. As it accelerated toward the waiting fleet, Jake looked back one last time. He could see the converted hull of the Defiant, now a monument to courage and sacrifice. They had lost good people. They had lost their ship. But they had saved 47,000 lives, and they had shown the galaxy what humans believed in. Some things were worth fighting for. Some things were worth dying for. And helping those in need, no matter who they were, was always the right choice. The shuttle jumped to lightspeed, carrying the crew of the Defiant home. But their story remained behind, spreading across the galaxy like ripples in water. The story of the day Hope had a name. The story of the day one ship made all the difference. The story that would inspire countless others to stand up and fight for what was right. The story of the Defiant, and the humans who refused to look away.